Welcome friends to another Dune video. One of the powers that the Bene Gesserit use is the voice. I've always found it very interesting and I've always had a lot of questions attached to how it works. What are the limits and how many people the voice can affect? Can obstacles block it? Does language matter? How long does a command last for? I will try to answer these questions with examples from across all the Dune books. Let's get straight into it. As we're told very well by the Dune Encyclopedia, use of voice allows a Bene Gesserit adept to gain control over uninitiated victims merely by altering the tonal qualities of the voice. Simple instructions or orders were then spoken in voice and obeyed dutifully, and voice was most often used to compel a typically unwilling victim to do something undesirable or to glean truth from an unwilling recipient. Voice messages, therefore, go directly to the unconscious, are not subject to scrutiny by the conscious will of the receiver, and compliance requires no voluntary decision. And from the same source, we also get a little detail on the subtleties of voice. Particular subtleties of voice usage are the lie adroit, manipulation through concealed falsehood, and the Zen-Sunni Codex, a play of words that confuses or obscures the truth. Someone trained in the ways of the sisterhood is able to monitor and control their reaction to this, such as to resist it, but you will see from the examples below this is not always the case. Now, the first Dune novel by Frank Herbert gives us the basics. You can use the voice on a single or a group of people, and when you are gagged and you are trying to use the voice, it clearly doesn't work. Now let's look at examples of the voice being used more like persuasion than to control. In Heretics of Dune, Shiana is commanded by Andrade to "Don't take that tone with me, child, not if you wish to learn anything." Shiana absorbs what happened and then is happy the Reverend Mother came to train her. And the other example is between Paul and Jessica, where Paul thanks his mother for saying the right thing when he says Dune is not his home anymore, and she says, "You may control an imperium, but Caladan is still your home world, and its people are still your family, as surely as I am." So these examples of voice to me indicate it can be used lightly, for lack of a better word, to just shake someone to see something rather than outright to manipulate or command them to just get a certain reaction from them. Paul Atreides, playing the role of the preacher in Children of Dune, controls a whole crowd of people, an example of how many can be commanded by it. Perhaps the distance the voice is projected over is the key. The Dune Encyclopedia also confirms this. It says a Bene Gesserit could manipulate individuals or large groups by triggering clue tone, and later it also says women specifically gifted with the great control could manage any number of people in any situation. In Winds of Dune, a sister uses voice to command a group of people, but the front three in that group block her access to a fourth who is behind them, who does not obey her words. So we see the importance of location and that the physics of sound can hurt how effective it is when reaching those that the Bene Gesserit is trying to affect. In Sandworms of Dune, we see a Bene Gesserit address a crowd of people with different, and here's a quote, voices, accents and languages. And her message cuts through to them all, so I wonder perhaps that the voice can cut through the barrier so long as the Bene Gesserit has been able to register the crowd, and that the language is therefore not a barrier for her using her ability on them. Also in the same book, we see a Bene Gesserit using a tone that was the equivalent of a verbal blow. She said to the guards, "Speak of this to no one." They froze. How long does the command last for? It's not possible to know from the scene, but it must be for at least a short length of time. I think it lasts as long as the Bene Gesserit intends it to last. In Paul of Dune, a Bene Gesserit speaks to a man and tells him to stop. The exact words they use are, "You will wait for us here as we observe the vendors and their wares." And yet he still tells them they need to wear a disguise. So that brings up the limits of the voice. Outside of the command given, what can you do? I think it depends on who has given you the orders, i.e. perhaps their ability with the voice, and also the wording used. The Bene Gesserit that gave the command thinks that they are amazed that the driver had the strength for such independent thought whilst under the influence of the voice, which shows that normally this is not the case. How much control of someone else's body does the voice give the user? That is what we will look at in the next two examples. In The Winds of Dune, it tells us Tessia's larynx shut down, her vocal cords locked, even her lungs refused to exhale. As a Bene Gesserit, she'd been taught how to resist voice, but this oral blow had been delivered by a powerful expert, someone who had gauged Tessia, measured her, and knew her precise weak points. So the voice is able to have a big physical effect on the body, more than I had considered. And now one of the cruelest examples of the use of voice, building on what we have seen so far. This is from the Lady of Caladan. A Bene Gesserit, a powerful one, a Kwisatz mother as she is termed, says, "From now on you will have no other thoughts but the litany against fear, no other words, no other memories or realities. The litany is you, the litany is all there is." It seems here the voice gives total command, and it essentially is killing someone, with the voice locking them into only one action. This was an experienced Bene Gesserit on a lesser sister. The same experienced Bene Gesserit also has commanded other sisters to kill themselves, and they have obeyed, using it as a literal vocal weapon. I hope, like this video did for me, you've found some ideas and examples of the capabilities of the voice, along with a little of my own speculation. Are there any angles you would like to point out to me? How long do you think the command of the voice lasts for? Have you been reciting the litany of fear for days on end? Comment down below.